Hello. Now, from wherever you are watching us around the world this Sunday afternoon, let's welcome you to the Signature Show. I'm Waboze Njoko, and in today's edition of the program, empty in specifics, full in divisiveness. Who will teach Nigerian politicians not to take the electorate for granted? Collection of permanent voter cards. INEC officials idle away while Nigerians wait for the 11th hour. And Samuel Otom, federalism and national security. Plus, of course, our thank you and corruption story. Please stay with us. When the issues matter and the need to know matters.
The chief of staff of Nigeria couldn't go to his village because it was being occupied by Boko Haram.
Politicians and political parties have massively used money to buy votes and to change the course of electoral direction.
You will also remember the very APC itself set up a Rufai committee recommending structuring doesn't mean anything. Go back to federalism.
Or the fun and the fair to relieve everyday care.
Life is a riddle, my son. The land bled when Uvoranwe was put in shackles. Heaven wept when Saruwiwa was laid to rest.
Everything comes with the Judge Tufoni. Everything comes with who I am.
The Signature Show, your show that matters, on AIT every Sunday at 2 p.m. Now, what do you do to make politicians understand that they undermine Nigeria's development when they send contradictory messages to the electorate? The message credited to the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party PDP, Atiku Abubakar, at an event in Kaduna last week, that the North does not need an Igbo or Yoruba president, is a clear contradiction to his own rhetoric of a one indivisible Nigerian nation. He himself, in thought and now in words, has divided Nigeria into Igbo and Yoruba, who are not for a northern Nigeria. And now, on the heels of that divisive statement credited to the to PDP, the presidential candidate of APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, told the people of Ekiti State, "You don't know Atiku. You don't know Obi. Vote for me, Tiwantiwa." How do these political appeals to sectional or tribal sentiments answer to the demands of a Nigerian nation in their need of functional education, civil service that needs to be helped out of corruption, a governance culture that is mired in nepotism and mediocrity, a dysfunctional legislature across the country, and infrastructure that has failed to drive national development? These are issues that ought to engage them. Well, meanwhile, offices of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, across Nigeria are just cold. Officials of the commission sit idle because Nigerians will not even go for their permanent voter cards. A few weeks to the election proper, civil society groups, human rights lawyers will put pressure on INEC to extend collection of the voter cards. Please, this is the time to do so without creating a situation of demanding and giving of gratification, isn't it? This is the Signature Show on AIT. We take a break and return shortly. Please stay with us. Now, as different stakeholders commit to strengthening the credibility of Nigeria's elections, the weak link in the chain seems to be INEC polling officials and political party agents, especially at the grassroots. Now, what can be the implication of this weakness? And what can we do? This is the subject of our first interview for this week. My guest is Chris Obu, a member of the Imo State chapter of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Stay with us. Chris Obu, you're welcome to the conversation.
Chief, thank you for having me.
Great. How does it feel that you win an election and the system that has rules decides to undermine its own rules to produce its candidate, how does it feel?
Chief, is highly worrisome. We were 5 that contested that very election. And the result of that very primary election reflected us. I, Chris Obu, had 20 votes. The closest runner, 13 votes. 2 others, 2 votes and 1 0 vote. But, Chief, before I could know what was happening, an electoral panel, a P panel, was sent to Imo State without my consent, alleging that I, Chris Obu, and the Kengo Gochire, and one Dr. Rufus Omire, former member of the National Assembly, that we all kidnapped delegates and quartered somewhere. And in the criminal wisdom of this very appeal panel, they went to somewhere at Wadada Plaza, wrote a report in contravention of Section 36, sub 6, C of the 1999 Constitution, no right of fair hearing. They said the election was annulled. And if election is annulled today, Chief, the normal thing, the democratic thing, is for the Wadada Plaza, the Wadada boys, or the Wadada men, whatever they call themselves.
That's the PDP secretary.
That is the PDP. To send another panel to come to Imo State with a letter to INEC, they must do a letter to INEC, informing INEC, giving INEC notice of 21 days or 7 days, that there will be another rerun. And there was nothing like that. Based on that very fictitious report, they are not my election. And the national secretary of the party, Chief, I have every document indicting him. He replaced my name with a woman that got 2 votes. I went to court with 15 prayers. And the trial judge looked at the whole thing. Did you know a senior advocate who defended the woman could not avail any material evidence to substantiate that the woman, the alleged woman, won the election? It was the way the trial judge threw out the whole thing. It's worrisome that democracy is on trial. It's worrisome that the attitude of these boys at the Wadada, or men at the Wadada Plaza, is impeding democracy.
Let me interject here. It doesn't seem to be peculiar to the PDP. 1 or 2 candidates known to me of the APC also won their elections. And between the point of the Congress and the national headquarters of APC, their names were removed. Some of them are in court. My challenge in these matters is that what are those manipulating the process looking for? Is it money or is it power?
During our transition program, the transition process during Ibrahim Badamosi's era, Professor Momori made a statement. He said there will be no way Nigeria will get an enduring democratic experiment without the establishment of a Center for Democratic Studies. Center for Democratic Studies.
Yeah, are you politicians, are you studying in that center now?
Oh yeah, definitely. But, Prof, I'm a PhD holder.
Good.
I'm in final year law.
Good.
So the essence of politics is not to enrich your pocket.
No.
It's to good.
But it doesn't seem that all they are studying in that center are paying off, since the system still experiencing this kind of thing.
Prof, there is no center for now that is educating anybody. The only center that is educated is the structure of collective criminality in all the political parties. They have so much entrenched the structure of collective criminality that what that structure of collective criminality does is to enrich their pocket. They collect money, they enrich, they remove whoever they want to remove. Until the system, until whoever that is the president, either from the era of President Ibrahim Muhammad Buhari to the incoming president, whoever, begins to arrest all these guys in order to save our democracy, we will not have peace.
Every time elections have come in Nigeria, there have been mammoth crowds in the city centers. But when results are called, the big figures come from the rural communities. And therefore, it appears to me that the manipulation of the process may not be before the TV camera. It is in the rural communities. What are you people doing, therefore, to address rural community political manipulation? That is one. What demand are you making on INEC to say, look, here is where the challenge lies? What are you doing?
Chief, thank you for this very question. You see, the greatest thing this present government, I'm not a supporter of Muhammadu Buhari, but the greatest thing this government did is the electoral reform of 2021. Without the electoral reform of 2021, I don't know where this democracy would be. Because the electoral reform that led to the introduction of the 2021 Electoral Act gave us a lot of things that has introduced hope into the electoral process. One, the process of emerging as a candidate. Prof and Chief, did you know that if not for the Electoral Act, my days would have been over. I commend Mahmoud Yakub, Mahmoud Yakub, the chairman of INEC. And I'm saying that Nigerians must do everything humanly possible to protect him. Because most of the internal contradictions, the bourgeois comprador, the terrors in the political parties want to stampede him out of the office so that they can use incident form to rig. And that is the reason why yesterday we had a press conference intimating, highlighting, and also alarming, giving Nigerians the notice that this man, they want to remove him for having the gut to introduce the Electoral Act, electoral reforms. Now, back to the rural area. You said, what are we doing? We are doing a lot. We have initiated, developed a process by which we are going to check most of these SSCs of these criminal elements are in all the political parties to rig. One is the beavers. Two is, before you come with the beavers, we have to look whether the beavers is already uploaded or not. And secondly is that we must make sure that the vote, we are training people that when they vote, they stay there to protect their vote. Chief, do you know that all the crowd you are seeing, they are still one people? One people in all the political parties. Samuel Okeke, Ibrahim Tahiru, we charter bus to attend the Okonkwo's rally in Kogi. The same Ibrahim we charter and Okonkwo we charter another bus again to another campaign being done by another one in Kaduna. The same people. That is to show you the level of criminality in this country. That is to show you the level of criminality. So what we are saying, what we are doing at the rural area is that the people's vote must count. The people must protect their votes. Then the era of when you bring your incident passport, you know what they did, what they normally do is to use passport to build in different polling units. You see a particular polling unit with 1,000, 5,000 voters. Where are they? And that is the reason why we said no. You have to use the BVAS machine to tell us those people that constitute in a particular polling unit, you have 10,000. So bring either the 10,000 goats or 10,000 melu or 10,000 cows that you put in the voters register. Let them come and vote and let the people watch whether these people are human beings or animals. So we are doing a lot to checkmate them.
The security institutions also have a role to play.
Yes, the security institution, you see, the Nigerian state is a compromised state. Nigerian state is a compromised state. I have a lot of them as friends. I've worked with them. I know a lot of them. The only thing is that the Nigerian problem has already permeated to the security institution. You can't divorce the Nigerian problem from the security agents. You can't. But what we are saying is that the people of working on, when you look at what is going on today, revolution, especially from the young generation, they said we want change. And no amount of gun that will protect, that will debar the people, that will stop the people from change. Nelson Mandela of blessed memory said, he said, no amount of bazooka, no amount of conventional weapon, whether intercontinental missile or ballistic missile, will stop a cause. Its time is ripe. And this is the time for the younger generation to protect their vote. No amount of weapon. They can't amass this weapon to deter who? To deter, to more, encourage criminality more, inflation more, unemployment more. The young graduates are not having job, and we are talking about where every 4 years we are going into another democratic experiment to elect leaders whose only modus operandi and the modus vivendi is to encourage unemployment. Is that what we are going to do? It's only left for us. If we want it to continue that way, fine and good. But I know that this generation, this young generation that has waken up, will not allow that to happen.
Chris, modus operandi will not be understood in Guzau this afternoon. Modus vivendi will not be understood in Ndiebo Ovoro, Nembise, this afternoon. What they are likely to understand is that Chris Obu came with a little truck of load of rice written Chris Obu on it because they are hungry.
Definitely.
How are the political parties, you people in the field, how are you telling them that this rice is not as important as voting for what to make them live longer? So they can understand that this their modus is of no consequence today and tomorrow.
Sensitization, enlightenment, educating them, talking to them one by one. That this concept of stomach infrastructure will not work. That the people must stand for a good culture. And what is that culture? Enthroning a democratic norm that will see to the dividend of democracy. And what is this the dividend of democracy? Making sure that in their schools we have right teachers that teaches them the right courses. Making sure that there are rules. Making sure there are lies. Look, the elite, the political elite over the years and over time, have introduced this culture of what? This culture of unemployment, this culture of lack, this culture of deprivation, poverty, to make sure that the mass of the people are enslaved. And that is the reason why bag of rice become what they pray for. And we are saying to them, look, when you vote and collect one bag of rice, and at the end of the day, Boko Haram, kidnappers, insurgents take over your territory, who are you going to blame? And many of them are understanding us. They are beginning to wake up to say we will not. And that is what you are seeing in the street today. People are saying we need change. But what matters is that Nigerian people must give their vote to a man that is ready to serve them, not a man that is ready to enslave them.
You are talking this afternoon as an individual convinced of the need for this change. Are the political parties themselves who are desirous of winning election, are they desirous of seeing transparency in the rural communities, less manipulation in rural communities? And look, let us debate issues and tell the Nigerian public what we can do. Or are they just developing their structures in order to manipulate the rural communities? You are talking to me as an individual. What are the political parties themselves?
Well, the managers of most of the political parties in this country doesn't even understand why they are there. The managers. Many of them don't. Many of them don't. So what issue are they going to canvass? What issue are they going to canvass in an election? Look at the political rallies. What is the manifesto? What is the ideology? What is the ideology? What is the manifesto? Nothing. They're not canvassing anything. You cannot give what you don't have. The political managers, many of them doesn't have anything. Apart from the structure of collective and individual criminality. Nothing more. And that is why the system is collapsing. In a party democracy, multi-party democracy, people shall change their candidates at will. Political parties manager, the managers of different political parties are calling for the removal of Mahmoud because he said, look, let us have a change. Is that system going to survive? The answer remains no. Many of them don't know what they are doing, and that is why the system is collapsing.
With this kind of faulty value, political value, even at the management level, at the political party management level, do you see us having credible outcomes, transparent outcomes, fair outcomes in our elections?
Unless the Nigerian people rise up to defend their votes, there will be no credible outcome.
Chris, thank you for coming to the conversation.
Thank you, Chief.
Now, earlier last week, Deputy Senate President Ovie Omoagege pleaded with state houses of assembly to deliberate and take positions on bills for the two of them in consideration of amendment to the 1999 Constitution as amended. 25 state houses of assembly refused outright to consider the proposed amendments because it did not make provision for state police. Benue State Governor Samuel Ortom is unarguably the face of that demand, with his insistence that Nigeria's security cannot be guaranteed by a distant federal government which plays favor politics with the current Nigerian security. Now, in this special report, Signature Show reporter Chukwuemeka Onyeka takes a look at Samuel Ortom, federalism, and national security against the demand by the 25 state House of Assembly on the amendment of the 1999 Constitution.
Last week, 25 states rejected any further moves on the current Constitution amendment unless 4 more provisions are accommodated in the amendment. Top in their demand is the provision for state police. The demand for state police has topped the demands of Nigerians calling for true federalism, and the face of that demand has been Samuel Ortom, the governor of Benue State, whose state has been turned into a killing field as a result of lax security.
The federal government has the prerogative of enforcing the laws of the land. I don't have state police. I don't have state army. I don't have Navy, Air Force, and all that. Well, as far as I'm concerned, this is a complete failure because you can't see these people who are dying, who are hungry, who are suffering. This is not fair. These are human beings like all of us. These are human beings like the president or myself as governor or ministers. And no one is willing to come out to face this problem squarely. This is not fair.
In Borno, Niger, and now Enugu states, citizens have reported sighting rogue helicopters dropping insurgents or even arms, as in the case of Niger State, where a helicopter piloted by a French national was alleged to have been brought down by members of a local community.
We have the firm belief that it is high time the police central command become devolved to the federating units for effective monitoring. We have been relentless in advocating, therefore, for the establishment of state police, and we will continue to call for it. There can be no other way if we are indeed serious about securing lives and properties. It is this incongruity which propelled the Southwest governors to form the Regional Security Network, which we codename Amotekun. The ultimate is to convince others to understand that the devolution of authority is inexorable. Every state, everyone, every state must be allowed to secure its space.
I would like to hand over a secure, prosperous, confident Nigeria to whoever succeeds me.
As President Muhammadu Buhari promises to hand over a safe and secure Nigeria to the incoming administration, many Nigerians wonder if the present security architecture, which responds to the ever-increasing security demands of the states like a distant foreign sovereign, can be trusted to secure the nation.
Well, thank you, Chukwuemeka. Imo State may not have established a state police. However, the state has begun an establishment structure that is not ad hoc to aggregate its efforts towards a well-organized, well-coordinated, and well-administered internal security structure. Now, we spoke with the Imo State Commissioner for Homeland Security, a novel approach to internal security in Nigerian states.
Yeah,
You're welcome to the conversation.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
An envelope, an umbrella examination. What is the state of security, let me not use insecurity, that the state government has identified? Dr. Goji, you're welcome to the conversation.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
An envelope, an umbrella examination. What is the state of security, let me not use insecurity, that the state government has identified?
Well, again, thanks for having me in the studio. Well, the state of security in Imo State is that things are relatively calm. His Excellency Governor Hope Uzodimma, through his emphasis on security and his priority, the priority he's placed on security and safety, has worked very hard and spent quite a lot of resources to get Imo relatively calm, much calmer than it was at the peak of the challenges we faced in the state. One of the signature moves of the governor is the establishment of the Ministry of Homeland Security and Vigilante Affairs. I believe it's the first of its kind in the country. And that was His Excellency Governor Hope Uzodimma's idea of putting together a whole of government and a whole of society approach to our collective security and safety in Imo State. So that's the state of affairs right now in terms of the management of security challenges in the state. And the ministry liaises with all the security formations in the state, from the Army, the police, the Air Force, the Navy, the DSS, Civil Defense, and other outfits at the federal level. So I liaise with the security chiefs for all those security organizations. And then within the state itself, we have a state vigilante, which is known as Imo Security Organization. And then at the local levels, His Excellency Governor Hope Uzodimma wants us to anchor security at the local levels with the traditional rulers. And so the traditional rulers, or the Ezes, which is what we refer to them in our part of the world, the Ezes are the heads of security in their autonomous communities. And part of the responsibility of my ministry is to help autonomous communities organize local vigilante groups. And those groups are then formalized, trained, registered, and standardized across the state to augment the state infrastructure in terms of security and to augment the federal architecture of security in the state.
What is the reporting style of these vigilantes headed by the traditional rulers? Because whatever security infrastructure, infraction takes place in the communities. So how do you get the reports from them?
Yeah, we get reports.
Is there any structured manner?
Correct. Yes. Well, the vigilante groups and the traditional rulers are informed to let every community is covered by a police DPO, by and large. Virtually all the communities in the state are covered by police DPOs. And so there's an officer in charge of the station that covers that area. So we advise the vigilante groups, community members, and the traditional rulers that if there is any incident or they see any challenge security-wise, that they should inform the DPOs. They also have direct line to my office, that is the Ministry of Homeland Security and Vigilante Affairs. What we do if we get a call or information that either something is about to happen or something had happened, then we contact the various agencies that are specially trained to deal with such incidents. For instance, if it's kidnapping, we contact the police, and there is an anti-kidnapping unit that is charged to, that is specialized in dealing with kidnapping cases. So that's by and large the mechanism that is in place if somebody has something to report.
You know that for this to work, trust must be assured. Trust is a critical element in this kind of arrangement. And I know that that trust is not very deep between the communities and the police.
That's part of the challenge of my ministry, actually. Yeah. We recognize that for law enforcement to be effective, there has to be mutual respect and mutual trust between law enforcement officers and those that they are serving. And so part of my ministry's effort is to work with the police to improve the relationship between the police and the various communities. Especially, we're going to be looking to having the police have a relationship that doesn't necessarily have to do with security. For instance, if the police gets involved in youth recreational activities, so that our young people get to know and interact with the police outside the ambits of the law, so to speak, it goes to establish a relationship where the communities or the individuals or the citizens do then come to see the police indeed as a friend and as a protector in the community. So yes, that's part of the programs we have in the ministry to help improve the relationship between law enforcement agents and those they serve.
Another challenge is arms getting into the hands of non-state actors, but we are creating a formal structure relationship. Is there any way this structure, this relationship, allows these vigilantes to bear arms, any level of arms?
I think there is a plan to have some, not all, to have some specially trained vigilante officers to be armed with license. In other words, they are not going to be armed outside the ambit of the law. We will work with the police to get the necessary licenses and then to arrive or agree on the level of sophistication of the weapon that will be allowed for the vigilante groups to use in their operations.
Let us move outside of the law enforcement in this kind of arrangement. Insecurity in Nigeria, at the level it is a new phenomenon. At the level that it is. And in your state, insecurity was a distant story.
That's correct.
Are you trying to place your fingers on why things are changing?
Yes. That's a very good question, because Imo is known as perhaps the most peaceful state in the nation. And all of a sudden, that changed at some point. And that changed by and large for three reasons. One is there's a political angle to the insecurity or to the security challenges we face in Imo State. Many of the activities that have affected the security issues in the state have been sponsored activities. By that I mean there are political gladiators in Imo State or even outside Imo State who may have interest in Imo State who had vowed to make the state ungovernable for Senator Hope Uzodinma when he became the governor of the state. So there's an element of that, and we know that a lot of the activities that has kept us up at night have been sponsored by political opponents and political gladiators in the state who want to make life difficult for the governor or want to make sure or at least affect his re-election should he decide to seek re-election. So that's one element. There is a second element of criminal syndicates who are there just for the money. It's business. That is kidnapping and stuff like that is a source of income that these elements have chosen as the way they are going to make their own living. So you find that sometimes even these criminal syndicates fight for turf, they fight for territory. And in the middle of those fights, sometimes they blame the security formations, but what's really going on is a territorial fight between some of these criminal gangs, as it were. Of course, there is a third element. That third element is the separatist movement. There is a movement in our part of Nigeria which emanates from a feeling of alienation, a feeling of injustice, a feeling of inequity, a feeling of being pushed out of a nation state that their grandfathers and grandmothers established and built or helped build anyway. And so over the years, that grievance, that sense of alienation, that sense of being pushed aside from the major activities of state has galvanized in some of our young people, where they now say, well, if you don't want us, let us go, kind of thing, right? And that had simmered on for some time. Of course, when that sentiment had not gotten them what they felt they should get, some of them, or some of that activity, has now morphed into violence, where some elements within the separatist movement have opted to use violence as a means of making their case. Now, that's where it gets everybody into a problem, because the definition of terrorism is the use of violence, or the threat of the use of violence by a non-state actor to achieve political goals. So that's how some elements in that movement got themselves into conflict with the state, and the Nigerian state declared some of them, or proscribed some of them, and declared them as terrorist organizations, as it were. So those are the three major elements you see taking place, or fueling the security challenges we have in the state.
But there's something else. Education is critical. Gainful employment, even after the reorientation, is also very necessary. Every one of us who believes in national development accepts that white-collar jobs are no longer very fashionable. I know your ministry cannot be in charge of industrialization. Your ministry is not going to be an ND, National Director of Employment, but ideas. Are we thinking of what can be done to the economy of Imo State to be able to absorb these boys even after the orientation?
Absolutely. In fact, the last ESCO that I attended, there was a proposal that was brought by the economic advisor to the governor, Professor Kenneth Amechi, to provide or put together a program that would train about 300 to 500,000 of our youth in the digital space, where they can, with the skills like some of your cameramen now have, they can work from anywhere in the world and get jobs anywhere in the world. So that's part of the thinking that has gone into how we channel the energy of our young people. And we have a lot of creative energy among our people in our part of Nigeria. For instance, they dominate Nollywood, which is a creative avenue. There is not that much barrier to that, so they can go in and do their thing, and a lot of them are successful in that realm. So yes, we are thinking in those terms, like the orientation program or the alternative narrative program that I mentioned is in that realm. The digital training that I mentioned that was approved at the last ESCO is also in that realm. And we want to engage corporate Nigeria, especially our brothers and sisters who are in the business world, to also help us, not just with the training and the education that you talked about, but with opportunities once those skills are acquired.
When has your ministry reverted its mind to drugs and abuse of drugs as part of the causative or fueling factor of insecurity?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, His Excellency, Governor Hope Uzodinma, has directed me to work with the NDLEA and the Health Ministry of the state to develop rehabilitation centers, one in each of the senatorial zones. So there are two ways to deal with the drug challenge or the drug problem. One is the criminal aspect, which involves the police, and the other is the rehabilitation aspect. Those who use or dabble into drugs for recreation purposes and then got themselves hooked, we need to provide them help. Governor Hope Uzodinma believes that's the way to go, and we are now working on developing a drug rehabilitation center, one in each zone. So yes, it's an area of concern for us, and we're doing something.
Can I put you on the spot as a closing part of this conversation? Can you put a time frame on when your ministry begins that reduction a collective matter between the government and the people? Can you put a time frame?
Well, actually, we are already in that time frame because the security issue in Imo State is being contained quite well. From what it was last year, it has reduced considerably. You see, and I'm glad for that being the last question. And I want people to appreciate what Governor Hope Uzodimma has done in Imo State. Imo State was targeted specifically to create a chaotic situation. If you look at Haiti today, what's going on in Haiti, where criminal gangs are essentially running the cities, that's what was planned for Imo, where criminal gangsters were portioning out parts of the states to control, where you had political gladiators with their thugs, essentially portioning zones in the state to control. But Governor Hope Uzodimma has stood like a strong leader he is, and taken measures with the federal agencies and other local outfits to stem that. So that which you prevent is not always known or seen. But all I can say is people to look at what's happening in Haiti, look at what happened in Somalia at some time, right? And look at what Beirut was at some point in terms of these kinds of chaotic situations. And learn lessons. And then you can fully appreciate how successful the governor has been. What I want your audience to understand is that were it not for the kind of strong leader we have in Governor Hope Uzodimma, who had decided essentially to risk it all to make Imo calm, to make Imo peaceful, and to make Imo secure and safe, we would have had a worse situation than what we currently have in Imo. Because as I say, the state was targeted for chaos. The state was targeted to be made ungovernable. And there were criminal elements and criminal gangs who were looking to portion out parts of the state as territories they controlled for extortion, kidnapping, and things like that. But Governor Hope Uzodimma put his foot on the ground, spent the necessary money with the security outfits to stem that situation down. And I think this state, in the long run, will be grateful to the governor for the positions he has taken to try to keep things down, to keep the peace in Imo State. On our part, in addition to the hard power which has come to play, by hard power I mean the military and the paramilitary, in addition to that, we also have a soft power programs where we are connecting to the women's network, for instance, the August meeting phenomenon of our women. We think we can connect and link with that network for them to help us in this process of reorienting our young people away from things that bring them into confrontation with the security forces. We are also paying very close attention to the youth themselves. So we have youth advocate program from the ministry where we train youths in every local government to become essentially ambassadors of peace and reorientation to help us put together this alternative narrative idea or campaign that I've been talking about. So yes, we're not, of course we hope and plan to do a lot better to return Imo to what it used to be.
Are you extending a hand of cooperation or requesting for cooperation from the federal authorities?
Oh, absolutely. As I said, my ministry liaises with all the agencies, security outfits in the state. I know that our governor frequently meets with President Muhammadu Buhari, and that the president has been very kind and generous in granting us requests related to security challenges in the state. My governor recently Governor Hope Uzodimma, that is, just recently bought APC armored personnel carriers, about 10 to 13 of them that he bought for the police to use.
Well, Dr. Gonji, I want to thank you for coming to the conversation.
Thank you very much.
And now for our thank you for this Sunday. A world-respected and feverishly admired Abeokuta Ogun State-born international artist, Bukola Elemide Asha. She takes the center stage this afternoon. Daughter of a cinematographer, Inspired by Fela, Marvin Gaye, Bob Marley, Miriam Makeba, Asha plays a unique combination of soul, folk, and reggae. From the Asha's table this afternoon, this is Fire on the Mountain. It is our sweeper for this Sunday.
There is fire on the mountain, and nobody seems to be on the run. Oh, there is fire on the mountain top, and no one is running. I wake up in the morning, tell you what I see on my TV screen. I see the blood of an innocent child, and everybody's watching. Now I'm looking out my window, and what do I see? I see an army of a soldier man marching across the street. Hey. What did it say to make you so blind to your conscience and reason? Could it be love for your country, or for the gun you using killing? So there is fire on the mountain, and nobody seems to be on the run. Oh, there is fire on the mountain top, and no one is running. Hey, Mr. Loverman, can I get a chance to talk to you? 'Cause you are fooling with a dead man's corpse, and you don't know what you do. Oh, so little Lucy turned 16, and like the movie she's been seeing, she has a lover in her daddy. She can't tell nobody till she makes the evening news, for there is fire on the mountain.
Well, thank you, Asha, and thank you for staying with us all this while. Please still remain with us as we join my colleague, Marvelous Obomano, for Corruption Tori. I am Mwabweze Njoko. Good afternoon.
My people, una welcome to Corruption Tori for this Sunday, wey sun don begin hammer people wey dey Abuja like say rain never fall before. You know wetin Fela Anikulapo Kuti sing for one song? Him say, "You be thief, I no be thief. You be rogue, I no be rogue. You be ole, I no be ole. You be arm robber, I no be arm robber." Argument, argument, argument. As Fela sing, na so countryman dey argue now for wetin concern election matter for Nigeria. Corruption, na who dey bring am for election for Nigeria? Politician go say, "E no be me." INEC go say, "E no be me o." Police go say, "E no be me." Countryman go kukuma join dem say, "E no be me." So, na who e be? Last week, we bring you how people wey sabi tell us wetin politicians and security people go do to stop the mago-mago wey dey spoil election for our country Nigeria. Today, the matter wey we carry come na how countryman go put hand make mago-mago and wayo stop for our election. My name na Marvelous Oboman, your Tori master. Una welcome.
This na corruption tori.
You know say as you dey point finger for another person dey talk say na him dey shit for farm every time. You need to look yourself well o, because the other 4 fingers dey point at you. You never do am before? Na him when corruption tori gather people wey sabi wetin dey happen. One man wey him name na Jideojo come talk say for this 2023 election, countryman must look himself well. Jideojo say na countryman dey push politicians enter mago-mago reach way to win election. When they go ask politicians wey come rally for their side say, "Oga, wetin you bring come for us? Wetin you carry come for us? Abeg, we no wan hear I no get saving, I no get money, I no get shishi." Na that one we go chop. If you dey do that kind thing, that one come be say you dey sell your vote o. You dey sell good election and you dey sell good government.
We saw during the party primaries how the whole thing was monetized. And I keep telling people that there is no free lunch in Freetown. These politicians who have emerged as flag bearers, who spend billions of dollars to emerge as candidates, are going to recoup their investment if any of them gets elected into the office. The electorate needs to be very mindful of this provision in Section 121 and Section 127 of the Electoral Act, that they are complicit in collecting as much as they are complicit in asking. And if they did ask to be given bribe before they vote, they have not acted as a patriotic citizen. In the just concluded continuous voter registration exercise, there were allegations that some of the ad hoc staff actually exploited potential registrants by demanding money from them. Part of our responsibility as electorate is to ensure that these people are fished out and are punished, and that those INEC will be engaging for 2023 general elections are above board, that there are people who will not be compromised, that there are people who are incorruptible. Those millions of people who will be engaged as ad hoc staff, they must also be committed to electoral integrity.
Andy Ezani, wey be one man wey sabi wetin dey happen, and this man e don work as big oga for INEC, come join Jideojo talk say even INEC suppose to look all the people wey e dey employ for election work.
Yeah, never do. I just very fresh registration.
I tell something. Anybody go do fresh registration for you. I know they do fresh registration because it cost 50. Anybody go do fresh registration for you go charge you nothing less than 3,000.
3,000.
Oh boy. Except na transfer I won't do.
Okay.
People like NYSC members, Ezani talk say some of the NYSC INEC workers no dey for Chirekambia for money matter. Bring the money, I go do am for you. Na him dem dey. Him say INEC suppose to train them well. Tell them say the work for election be like person wey wan go heaven. They no dey take am do kalu.
Before elections and all that kind of stuff, the commission will always organize the orientation for the ad hoc staff and all that kind of briefing. But it is obvious now that the moral aspect of the whole thing is weak. The reports are not coming from one direction alone. It is all over the nation about the staff that are involved in these assignments, getting involved in all this unfortunate behavior. And so the thing I know that the commission had to do, 2 things. One is to, improve and strengthen that aspect of a briefing and orientation before the exercises commence. Secondly, is to be very strict and then to make sure that sanctions, very serious sanctions, are imposed on any of the staff who is caught involved in all this. If you listen to many reports that are coming in with the registration of voters, it is very, very sad and unfortunate that staff of the commission who are involved actually, or who are involved in registering voters, a basic civic exercise, we get to the point of beginning to ask for pittance of 2,000 or 3,000 to get people registered. And at a point that you have a whole lot of people queuing up to register. And so it is unfortunate. The commission cannot shake the responsibility. I don't see any other person coming from any other place to do it. And it is not something that the security agencies like the police will do. And so invariably, it is up to the commission to make sure that any staff that gets identified with such behavior is seriously sanctioned.
But you know say another wahala wey fit spoil the 2023 election na if mago politicians come sabi how to wayorish enter the machine or buy the people wey dey control the INEC machine like computer or the one wey dey call beavers. If you hear wetin Jane Ifediora wey be one of the people wey dey in charge of computer and other machine dem for INEC talk, your belle go sweet you well well.
So when you talk of manipulation or what, beavers, you can manipulate beavers as I'm talking with you. So the problem I'm seeing in future that can happen is hacking through the server or the cloud, which adequate cyber security is in place. So as we are talking now, the new technology is in place in Nigeria.
Is the corruption theory.
My country people, e be like say we don close the door wey thief go fit enter spoil matter for this 2023 election wey we dey go so. But we never reach where we dey go. As we dey waka, corruption tori go tell you. For today, na here we go match break. My name na Marvelous Oboman. Una bye bye yo.